Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Back to the District 7 talk coming up in just a few. We also, let me tell you something. I'm all over the joint. I understand. Somebody called it ADHD radio, and that's true. I would have ADHD if I believed in it, but I don't believe in it, so I don't have it. So I got a lot to say about a lot. I still haven't gotten my Epstein rant on the table yet. We're going to do that later. We're going to talk Michelle Obama. She had a few things to say about the United States of America. Here's a little peek behind the curtain. None of it nice. And then we're going to talk about October 7th, 2023 a little bit if we have time. And I got to get my rant pants on about Christmas decorations, y'all. Thanksgiving just gets the shaft, and I don't know what to do about it. I feel like I've lost this battle. What do you think, Jackson?
It's Christmas decorating time.
So you're all in favor?
I'm all in favor. Put them up.
I saw the Mandis family. Did y'all see online the Mandis family?
I saw that, boy. They already got a big old tree up.
Already got a big tree up, Ken. Where are you on this? Where are you on this very hot debate, Ken Weaver?
I'm all about it. I'm all about going ahead and putting Christmas stuff up. We're going to do it this weekend.
I'm lost. I've lost this debate. I got a buddy. I've lost it.
I got a buddy. He is moving Thanksgiving Day.
Uh-huh.
He's got Christmas stuff up in the house he's leaving. He's leaving Thanksgiving Day.
Why would he? And he's going to take the Christmas stuff and put it up in the new one. Uh-huh. So he's not waiting.
It's not a lot.
It's the point. So I know I've lost the battle.
I
get it. I understand. I understand. I'm on the losing side. I'm like, you know what I am, fellas? I'm Mel Gibson in Braveheart. I know I'm going to get my gonads cut off on this subject, but I'm going to do it anyway, and I'm going to scream freedom. But instead of freedom, I'm going to scream Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving! That's the hill I'm dying on. Thanksgiving matters, y'all, and you can put your damn Christmas decorations up on Friday after Thanksgiving.
Well, what if I get me a turkey ornament, hang it up?
Okay. See now you're trying to fudge on me. Trying to slide Christmas in there. You know what I have? I have a turkey, a big turkey inflatable that I'm going to bring in here.
We have a turkey. We have turkey hats.
We have turkey hats. Of course we do.
Yeah,
there you go.
They're real hot though.
Yeah, they do get your head all hot.
Make it all itchy. Too.
There you go, Jackson. Now, show everybody on Super Talk TV what you're talking about.
My camera's down.
Convenient.
That's convenient.
Very convenient.
Jackson was real quick with that.
I love Halloween. I mean, I love all the holidays, right? But they're kind of packed in here. But give Thanksgiving its moment, y'all. I mean, but I have a big turkey inflatable that I bought. Briefly, we were renting a piece of property before I came to Nashville, and the HOA in the place where we were renting said that you couldn't have any. They designated the only times that you could do outdoor decorations. And they said Halloween, and they said Christmas, and they skipped Thanksgiving. So I bought a big-ass Thanksgiving turkey inflatable and put it right. And I just dared somebody to say something.
You did, man.
But there's one where there's the turkey sitting on top of Santa Claus, and there's a sign that says, "Hold on, fat man, your turn's coming." I just, protect Thanksgiving, y'all.
Anyway, that big old turkey in here, man. We need to set that up.
All right, I'm going to find it. I'm going to bring it, and it's one of the it's going to take the whole joint up. So we'll do that in a little bit, maybe tomorrow, as a matter of fact. All right. I'm so pleased to have our next guest in here, and I'm so pleased on the subject matter because it's going to be a cool conversation. Now, we had Jason Gillum on a couple weeks ago.
Yes, a couple of weeks.
A couple weeks ago to talk about Columbia Dam. We're not talking about the dam today. We will talk about the dam again. Every time I bring up the Columbia Dam, boy, there's not a lack of it. I was down in Columbia this weekend looking at houses. Jason, there's not a lack of opinion.
No, you get a flood of response, right?
Hey,
no pun intended.
Like what you did there. So obviously you are learned in that subject, and we'll have you back on to talk and debate about that issue. But during our last conversation, you I guess everybody else knew it but me. You let the cat out of the bag that you fly for Southwest.
I do. I'm 25 years seniority in December.
Wow. And so I'm fascinated with what you guys have been through recently and just generally speaking the topic of air travel in the United States of America. So we invited you to come on and discuss it.
And I appreciate that.
Well, and you were gracious enough to do it. So what got you into flying? I
knew when I was 4 years old I wanted to be a pilot. The short story, my parents took me to St. Louis to see a baseball game when I was 4 years old, and we flew on TWA, Trans World Airlines, and I was hooked from the get-go. I said on that flight home that I was going to be a pilot for TWA, and at 32 years old, I was in training at TWA to be a pilot. So
That's so good.
yeah, I never lost the desire. It's just something that's always been within me, and so now I've been in the airlines for 30 years. And like I said, 25 years of that now, seniority at Southwest. That'll be December.
There's a shortage, right? Isn't there a shortage of pilots?
There is, and this is something that's been festering for a while, and it's just getting progressively worse because the retirements in the airlines are progressing. Every year there's more and more pilots retiring, and we don't have enough guys and ladies coming in at the bottom to fill those seats. So
Was the and I'll just get right to it. I was going to kind of lay the land for a minute, but I'm very curious what the world was like during COVID. I mean, because they were making y'all take the shots, and I don't know what your circumstance was, but it was bad for it was particularly bad for the airline industry.
Most of the pilots at Southwest didn't take the jab. We kind of stood firm on that.
Good.
And
did they back off on it?
They did.
That's nice.
They allowed religious exemptions, and other airlines did too. But I think some were a little bit more apprehensive.
I'm laughing because as soon as you say they allowed religious exemptions, I'm thinking, man, I bet a lot of pilots got religion.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, and in retrospect, I mean, thank goodness because there's been some issues with that. It's a controversial subject, obviously, but there's been some issues with guys that that got the shot. And so I was just thankful that our airline listened to us.
Some
listened
didn't.
to the pilot group, right?
Some didn't. So if we're looking at such a shortage, I would think that this would be a little more top of mind. I talked to a young man. I was out. I got a chance to take a flight at the Tennessee Flight School at BNA, and we went up. 174 Cessna, 172, 172 maybe, and itty bitty, tiny thing. And we're going up and we're talking, and he is, training, but he's also he's close to being a pilot. And he was talking to me about that process and how excited he was to make that transition. I was so excited for him, but he was talking about the shortages, and he was talking about some of the money.
That's part. Yes. Well, the airlines do. The pay has gotten much better because the market is so much more competitive. There's just not guys coming up, and the ones that do, they're wanted and needed, and so they've really come around with the pay for sure. And it's and one of the reasons that there's so many vacancies is just because it's not something you can just say, oh, I want to be a pilot, and then you go sit down in the cockpit and you start flying, right? It's a long process, and it's an expensive process.
How long did start to finish? How long would you say?
Depending on the route you take, okay? I mean, there's collegiate routes. You can go to college. MTSU's one of the big aviation schools here. I attended MTSU back in the day. It's changed, obviously, a ton since that time. But to answer your question, 4 to 7 years at best, and most guys, by the time they get through, it's usually around 10 years till you get to the major airline, and the flight training alone costs anywhere from $80,000 to $120,000 depending on how fast you get done.
Wow.
The longer you take, the more repetitive you have to be, the more things you have to go over. So, and you're paying per flight hour during your training. So you're paying your instructor, you're paying for the aircraft. And so if you don't stay on top of it, you have to repeat things. If you have to repeat things, and you're paying for more hours. So the more you stay on top of it, the faster you get done, the more money you save. But it's still, to get to your airline transport pilot rating from zero, it's somewhere between $80,000 and $120,000.
One of the reasons that I wanted to have this conversation, and I thought it would be of such interest to the audience, is that over the last 45 or so days during the shutdown, we had a lot of conversations, and it seemed to reach and bubble above the surface on the national news scale that there's an air traffic controller shortage. And I want to ask you about that, but nobody ever talked about the pilot shortage during the entire process. I'm thinking, well, it's my understanding that there's a significant pilot shortage too. How are we, if there's a shortage, how are we currently overcoming it, or are we?
We really aren't, and that's the problem. And so there's a divide, and it's you've got the traveling public, it's increasing. You have more and more travelers that want to fly, but yet the pilots that are available are decreasing. So there's a void there between supply and demand, right? And so just using 2022 numbers, I went back and looked at some. There were 8,800, and this is approximate, but were 8,800 ATPs given, airline transport pilot ratings. So guys that had been in training and they were eligible for their ATP rating, meaning that they could get the rating that would allow them to fly for a commercial airline. There were 8,800 given in 2022. All right. There were 4,800 pilots hired out of that group.
Okay.
All right. 4,800. And it's for a lot of reasons, right? There might be personality difference. It's just, they might not meet the exact requirements for a particular airline, whatever.
Something might happen in a personal way, whatever.
But here's the big number. There were 18,200 openings. So for 18,000 openings, there were 4,800 pilots hired.
Wow.
And that number, that divide is increasing year after year after year. There's just not enough guys coming up. And the reason is, and I don't know, maybe it's a societal issue. It seems like in today's world, everybody wants instant gratification, right? You want to come out of college and you want to be making $300,000. And it's just not the reality of the world we live in. And so when a guy hears that it's going to take 7 to 10 years, it's going to cost you $120,000, before you even get hired, they're like, I'll go find something else to do.
Right.
So
what do we do to, obviously the military is a route, right?
Right.
That incredibly valuable route.
True, but just like other avenues, that is diminishing too.
Yeah.
As you see all the time in this world, we're more and more, drones are doing more and more of the aviation flying, surveillance. They're even, they have drones now that are attack aircraft, and so guys are sitting somewhere in a remote area looking at a TV screen. And so, that
you
pilot
can't translate that to commercial
No,
aircraft.
it's not even remotely the same. You're just looking at a screen flying a drone. It's completely different when you're sitting on the flight deck and you're having to make decisions on that flight deck.
And am I remembering correctly, and I'm trying to remember the name of the instructor over at Tennessee Flight School. I want to say his name was Justin, but that's probably wrong. But one way or the other, he was saying, and I think I remember this correctly, that he was building flight hours.
Right. And that's how you do it. So
right.
if you want to become a pilot, right, you have zero time. You have to go through your ratings, okay? And like I said, that can take 2 or 3 years depending on how fast you
the first thing you have to do, not to interrupt you, but the first thing you have to do is learn how to fly a plane.
Right. Exactly.
And you have to do that with an instructor and blah, 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 and then you have to start solo, I guess, at some point.
Right. So you're looking at your private pilot rating, which will give you your certificate to fly a single-engine airplane, a small airplane like that 4-place 172 that you were talking about, right? So once you get your private pilot rating, then you want to build on that. And so the next thing you'll do is you'll go and you'll say, okay, I've got my private rating. I want to get my instrument rating, right? So that allows you to fly in the clouds. VFR is visual flight rules. You don't need any instrumentation. You're just flying, looking out the window. But if you want to fly instrument approaches in weather, low ceilings, low visibility, and you have to get your instrument rating. So you get your private, then your instrument. And this is the progression guys usually take, okay? You can vary it, but this is how they usually do it. Private, instrument, then you say, okay, I need to get my multi-engine rating. All right, you've been flying a single-engine plane. Now you want to fly an aircraft with 2 engines. So you get that. And then you get your multi-engine instrument rating. And then you go and you get your commercial, single and commercial multi, okay? So what does that mean? Well, that allows you to fly and get paid. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to get to fly for an airline, but let's say, you tow banners or you do mapping or you fly cargo of some type.
Ooh, crop dusters.
Yeah, crop dusters. That's another one. That's another one. So your commercial rating, it allows you to get paid to actually fly. And then guys say, okay, well, I want to advance now. I want to get my instructor rating, okay? And they'll get their CFI and their MEI, which means that they can instruct in single-engine airplanes and multi-engine airplanes. And that allows
That's where my guy was.
Right. And that allows you to build time and get paid while you do that, while you build those hours. Because most of the airlines are looking for somewhere around the bare minimum is 1,500. You've got to have 1,500 hours to get your ATP. Most airlines want
ATP is
airline transport pilot rating.
Got it.
That's the last big pilot rating you get to go fly for a regional airline and then to a major. Mm-hmm. And so most of the guys, that's the route you take. And that takes, about 3-4 years, if you stay on it. But most airlines hire at about 3,000 hours now. I mean, there's some guys that get in a little less than that, mm-hmm. but they want you to have a little bit of experience, and most of that experience is from flight instructing and then flying in a regional airline.
So let's say you've done that and you get hired by, let's say it's Southwest. But then you come in and you are what they call co-pilot or
first officer,
mm-hmm. and you sit in that seat for a number of hours, a certain amount of hours.
It's all based on seniority. Okay. So once you're hired as a first officer, you're trained. You go fly on the line, and you're getting your experience.
And you're doing some of this. You're doing basically the same thing the captain is doing.
You are, and typically the way it works is on any given flight, the captain will fly one leg, the next leg the first officer will fly. The captain is always in command of the aircraft, right? Sure. He's always the final authority. But the first officer, they're flying the airplane. They're doing everything that the captain is doing as far as manipulating the controls and all that, and making
they have the same abilities.
Right. You're just doing it in the right seat, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then as you progress in seniority and you've spent time in that, then you have to take your captain upgrade ride or your check ride to be a captain, and there's training involved with that. It's several weeks of simulator training and everything to upgrade to captain, and then you have to pass your.
You have to learn how to use the radio to talk to the people.
Right. You get your type rating in the aircraft, in the jet you're flying or whatever, and then you take your captain ride. You get your type rating, and then you move to the captain seat, and then you start all over with your seniority as a captain.
Well, this is a fascinating conversation. If you guys have any questions for Jason on the lines of airlines, I know a lot of them are coming in on the Super Text line, and some of them are really, really good. We're going to ask Jason all these questions. I will continue to explore more about this and find out what life was like during the shutdown. Do we have a real significant air traffic control issue? What that world is like? All of these questions will be answered in a moment, 24 after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. A couple of minutes before we get to the news, and then we've got Jason after the news. If you have any questions for Jason Gillum, who is a pilot, a captain at Southwest Airlines, then please, by all means, get them in here on the Super Text line, 615-737-9986, or you can call us up or Super Text it, and we'd love to hear from you. I mean, I can go a lot of different ways. I want to keep with the structural aspects of what y'all do on a day-to-day basis before I get to the stuff like what's the weirdest flight you've ever had and the craziest stuff that ever happened on an airplane. But talk to me about air traffic control. I mean, because even in my limited experience flying with, I've flown in a few helicopters, which
right.
have to have communication in, and then I've flown in a few small planes. And just listening to that level of communication, it is mind-boggling.
Right.
So it is, particularly because y'all are speaking a different language, obviously,
right.
Ground control and air traffic, and the idea that there aren't enough people to make you aware of what you need to know is a little bit frightening for those of us in the back of the plane. But talk to us a little about
Well,
that.
So, controllers are not a whole lot different than pilots. You don't just say one day I want to be a controller and then you go sit up and you're in the tower, and you're managing traffic. It doesn't work that way. It takes about, somewhere between 4 to 7 years before you're actually able to do that job. Mm-hmm. So there's a level of training and there's some cost involved. And there's some other restrictions, too. If you want to be a controller today, you've got to be a U.S. citizen. You have to be 31 years old before you get put in your position in the tower. So let's say you're 29 years old and you want to be a controller. Well, you're really going to be pushing that limit. You may not make that 31-year-old mark before you actually get put in that position, if you follow what I'm saying. So you got to be a U.S. citizen. You got to be 31. You got to have a clean background. You got to pass a medical. A college degree is not necessarily required, but they're preferred. But you don't have to have that. But yeah, the average controller to get to the actual seat, it's 4.5 to 7.5 years right now.
Is it the old wives' tale, or what we've always heard, is that air traffic control is one of the most stressful jobs in America.
For those guys that I've talked to, and I know some controllers and have talked to several, it can be a stressful job. Now, those guys are top-notch professionals. I can tell you right now, there is no way on God's green earth I would want to do that job. You really have to be on your game 100% of the time, no question about it, especially in busy airspace like Atlanta or New York,
right?
Chicago. Chicago, any of those, LA.
Or even B&A to a certain
right, well, at any of them. I'm not negating the fact that you always, but, when you have
those busier hubs,
takeoffs and departures every, 60 seconds and or less, there's no room for any fudge.
It occurs to me that, like, for you guys, and I don't want to assume anything for what you do, but I mean, you get the stress points of, takeoff and landing. Obviously, I would think are the times that you need to be on point and as focused all the time. But
right.
Those 2 times.
Exactly.
But then you can kind of, once you get up there and away from everybody else, it's not like you're constantly under stress.
Well, obviously, if you're at 41,000 feet and you're cruising across the country on a 4-hour flight, obviously you're always paying attention, but there's that time for kind of a disconnection from just keying in 100% every second, like you would be on a takeoff or
but these
landing.
air traffic control fellows and gals, it's constant with them.
Right.
Jason Gillum's with us. He's captain at Southwest. We're talking to him. We've got a lot of questions on the Super Text line, a lot of questions on the phone lines. We'll get news and get back to those questions coming up in a moment on Super Talk. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I have this weird hat. By the way, Jason Gillum's our guest. He is a captain with Southwest Airlines, and I hope you're as fascinated with this subject as I am. I got a gajillion questions. You've got questions. We're going to ask all of those from the Super Text line, and some of you have called in, and we'll get to Glenn and John and perhaps Brian in just a moment. I do this. My wife gives me grief about this, but I do every flight I get on. I have a really macabre mind, and I look in the seat back, right, and I get the little thing out that tells me the model of the aircraft.
The emergency brief card.
Yeah. And you get the model. And then I go to my phone. This is before we take off. I go to my phone and I look up the crashes. Every flight. Because there's always crashes. There's crashes all the time, y'all. But most of them you don't know about. But because there's no passengers on. But I look up the crashes, and I don't know why. It makes me feel better about flying. I have a little bit I don't have a fear of flying. I have a fear of taking off. And it's you probably know it. There's a point, I don't know what y'all call it, but I read about it, where there's a kind of a point of no return where the runway's only so long.
Right.
And so even if and God forbid this should ever happen, I know you probably don't like talking about this kind of stuff, but even if you recognize there's something wrong, you got to try to take off anyway.
Well, we have a runway stop distance, right? And then it's called V1, right?
Okay.
That's your decision, your go or no go decision, and that's an airspeed. And when you reach that speed, no matter what happens, you're going flying. If you if you have something that happens up to that V1 decision speed, then you can abort.
Shut her down.
You can abort, and you'll have enough runway remaining to stop the aircraft.
Right.
And so that is the determining factor for flying or not. And these airplanes, if you lose an engine at V1, the airplane is going to fly. It just will. That's the whole point of that speed.
I just got told by like 3 different people on the Super Text line that I'm entering an arena that I shouldn't be entering into because pilots don't say the C word.
Well, let me tell you, I'm gonna make you feel a bit better about this.
Okay.
So you have statistically a better chance of getting struck by lightning while riding a donkey than you do getting injured on an airplane.
That's awesome.
Okay, and so I'm going to make you feel a bit better about this.
Okay.
And I'm going to give you 2 different aircraft types. In the airline world, typically you're either going to be on a Boeing aircraft or an Airbus. Okay. It's virtually no difference in the numbers, but Boeing airplanes around the world typically do 40,000 flights a day. There's 40,000 Boeing airplanes flying at any given day around the world.
Wow.
Okay. The chances of you being in an incident, now I'm not talking about a fatal, I'm just talking about an incident.
Okay.
Is 0.39 incidents per 1 million flights. So in other words, 39 millionths of a percent. That is your chance of being in an incident on an airplane. Whether it be Boeing, or Airbus. Airbus is 0.38, if that makes a difference. But what that means is virtually it's a 0% chance.
Right.
Yes, it happens, but when you talk about the number of airplanes that are in the air, it's
insane.
It is. There's no safer
incredible
way to move from point A to B, period.
I'd agree. I did a lot of the sleuthing on this math when years ago I got convinced to jump out of an airplane to skydive. And I've done it twice now. And I did a lot of this math, and I love it because you're right. I mean, it is the safest way to travel. You are far, and it's not even close how much more dangerous driving home from work is. I mean, it's not even close.
Right.
All right, let's get back to happier things, like talking to John, who's got a question for Jason. John, you're on with Jason Gillum.
Yeah, I am a student pilot. I just got done with my private about 8 months ago, and I'm actually getting ready to go Part 141. I'm going to college, and I'm going to do the RATP stuff, all that. I've already got accepted into Delta's Propel. But my question is during all of that flight training, I've heard it gets quite difficult to remain enjoying flying. So how do you, per se, not lose the wonder of flying and all of the stress of flight training?
Oh man, I listen. I look back on the days of my flight training, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. Yes, there's stress because you're tested. You have to perform to a specific limit. But listen, your preparation will put you right in the enjoyment phase of flying. The more you prep, the better off you'll be, and you're going to love it. When you look back on it, it'll be something that you'll never forget. I still remember all of my flight training.
Well, John, I mean, and I would imagine, and kind of to the nature of his question, thank you for the question, John, is that if you've got it, if you've got the bug, I mean, if you realize at 4 or 5 years old that it's what you want to do, I don't imagine you ever lose the wonder of, I mean, it's funny. He's out of favor because he's apparently not a very good guy, but I saw a comedian years ago, Louis C.K., that did a bit about that he was on one of the first commercial flights that had Wi-Fi. And they had announced it was a big deal that this flight is going to have Wi-Fi. You're going to be able to, look on your phone and do whatever you want at 35,000 feet. And they get up and and they say, "We're sorry, there's been some glitch. The Wi-Fi is not working." And he said the guy behind him is like, "Rawr!" He starts screaming and yelling, and he's like, "Is it lost on you that we're moving at 500 miles an hour, 35,000 feet in the air by magic? You couldn't even begin to comprehend what's going on right now, and you're grumping because you can't look at TikTok."
Right. I, sometimes you can't help but wonder that in today's world. I deal with passengers sometimes that are upset for various reasons and delays and things like that, and at the end of the day, we're flying from maybe Nashville to Albuquerque and we're an hour delayed. And it's as frustrating for me as it is anyone, right? Because we always want to be on time. But at the end of the day, I mean, Albuquerque, you're an hour late. You're still gonna get there. I mean, if you drove, you're talking days, right?
And you guys don't say, I mean, you experience just about a little bit of everything. I don't want to assume, but on our end, on the passenger's end, you're sitting at the gate and you're waiting, and then you get an announcement that there's been a mechanical issue, and the amount of grumping, and I'm like, don't y'all, that's what we want. We want that announcement, right? What we don't want is to get on the plane.
But I do understand the frustration. They're like, well, what do you mean you're just now finding that, but these things, these airplanes, they are extremely well maintained. I mean, the level of maintenance that goes into these airliners is just unbelievable. And so, but these things are mechanical, and things show up every once in a while, and there's nothing you can do about it. And sometimes they rear their head at the worst possible time.
So I've gotten 1487 writes in and says, I guess he's a commercial pilot, he or she commercial pilot. And could we not start a pilot tech school, even a senior year of high school, that would help these young people get out of school and get them on a quicker path? And then he's also asked if you've ever flown into GTMO. Is that Gitmo?
No,
GTMO?
Yes, that's Gitmo.
He said the runway is so short.
Right. And I actually haven't flown into Gitmo. I have flown into Cuba, but I've not been to Gitmo.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't know, but he's saying the run was
right.
real short.
Oh yeah, right. I flew into West Palm. That's a short runway too. In a 737, it's always interesting.
I mean, but you always have advanced knowledge. I mean, right? Obviously.
Oh yeah, you know, there's plenty of preparation going into each flight, so you know what you're in for.
Getting into.
Right.
Glenn is next up with a question for Jason Gillum. Hey, Glenn.
Hi, Matt. Hi, Jason.
Hello.
I'm calling for a friend of mine who is in the process of becoming a pilot. He's having great difficulty getting his 1,500 hours in. I do not want to take any of your time on the air. I was wondering if there's any way you could give me some type of contact information so that he can contact you to, I guess, get some inside information. He's going through the process, but he's just running into.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. I'd be happy to do that.
Give that to me. I would like to have him contact you. I'm doing it on his behalf.
Yeah, I'll let Matt tell you how to get in touch with the station. I'll give him my information, and then absolutely, I'll be glad to. I've mentored some other guys, and it's hey, it's important. That's what we do.
I'm going to put Glenn.
I'm going to give you his full name, but his name is Sam. But if you would just
Glenn,
give me, yes.
Glenn, I'm going to put you on hold, and I'll get your contact info, and we'll get you guys in contact.
Absolutely,
that's the best way to do it.
Be happy to do
it. So I put him on hold for you, Jackson. 615-737-9986. 1012. I've had like 6 people ask this question. Are you responsible for loading the chemtrails into the aircraft, or is that the?
I knew this was going to come up today.
First officer that does that, is that a flight attendant job, maintenance crew on the ground?
I knew that was going to come up, man. This whole chemtrail thing. Holy cow! Listen, here's the thing. I think there is some confusion in this chemtrail world. You know, chemtrails, obviously, there are military operations that have taken place where cloud seeding and things like that have been done.
No question.
I have no doubt. I can't say that I don't think that it's still going on. But that is completely different than these commercial airliners that you see when we're flying at altitude and you see the white streak coming out behind us. That truly is nothing more than a cloud. We're taking super cold air, minus 40 degrees plus. We're compressing that, condensing that, superheating it, and it comes out as basically these ice crystals, that get vaporized, and it's making a cloud. And so people say, well, how in the world does it stay up there for hours? Well, it depends, because there may not be any wind at altitude. If there's no wind at altitude, they could hang up there for who knows how long. They just hang there. They just hang there. If there's a 120-knot jet stream that you're flying through, it's going to dissipate very quick. And so, I believe that there's a thing called chemtrails, but what you're seeing streaking across the sky coming out of a 737, that's not a chemtrail.
I never let you answer the question about tech school, or is there a way to develop, I guess more broadly, would you recommend that we need more of a pipeline to find those? Oh,
absolutely. I think we do need to find a solution before this problem just exacerbates to a point where we don't have any pilots.
Yeah.
Because like I said, we are going to reach a point where the demand is far more than the supply, and the traveling public's going to be stuck.
Could I use my GI benefits for a pilot's license? I don't know. That might be.
I believe I believe that option does exist. I'm a long time out of flight school, so you'll have to forgive me for my ignorance on this subject, but I do believe that you can absolutely do that.
Let's see. I'm looking down for the best questions. A lot of chemtrail questions, and a lot of people who have relatives or have folks that are pilots or are flight attendants. And there's several people that say this is how they want to go out. By the way, Jason, they want to go out riding a donkey, getting struck by lightning. 1143 says that's how I want to go. I want to be. Me too. Actually, that would be kind of fun. I don't know what's going on in your life if that happens. But Brad is next up with a question for Jason before we run out of time. Hey, Brad.
Hey there. How you doing?
Good.
Hey.
Uh-oh. Brad, we got a bad connection, buddy. Which is a great way to parlay into my final question is that why can't we use our phone on the plane?
Well, so we have navigation instruments up on the flight deck, right?
Right.
So there is a theory that if everybody in the airplane were on their cell phones, that those signals from those cell phones could interrupt the navigation
kind
systems.
of en masse.
En masse, right,
Yeah,
right.
okay.
So, I don't know about that, but that's what the experts tell us. So,
right.
you're
just kind of following the rules.
I'm following the rules.
I need you back, man, because I didn't even get into weirdest thing that's ever happened on a plane flight. I bet you could tell me stories.
Oh, there's there's a lot. There's a lot.
After, what'd you say, 25 years of doing this?
30 years in the
30 years of doing this. How long are you going to go?
Well, we mandatorily retire at 65. So
Okay.
I've got just over 9 years left.
Okay.
So, but 65, we're done whether we want to be or not. I mean, you can fly in the private world. You could go out and fly private jets and all that. But as far as commercial airline passengers,
Is there
you're done.
Is there any conversation at all about adjusting that? I mean, people live a lot younger, older these days.
Right.
If you know what I'm saying.
Right. And I'm the contingent that if you can, if you are still
Pass
passing your
physical
medical, and
requirement,
you should be. But there are conversations, and they're ongoing at the federal level. I mean, the pilot unions and our federal government are in talks, and they've been talking about moving it to 67. So who knows if that's going to happen or not? But that would be one way to alleviate some of the pilot shortage.
Jason, thank you for this. It's been a great hour.
Well, thank you.
We'll do it again very soon. And
Absolutely.
Next time I'll let you talk about the Columbia Dam a little bit too.
Perfect.
There's Jason Gillum for a great hour of conversation. It's 4:54 on Super Talk.